Hi, I'm just getting ready to go out this morning. I have signed up for a new class and I'm really excited about the Qigong class, and I've never tried it before, and I'm so excited about trying something new and kind of getting outside my comfort zone and really looking for things that'll keep me mobile and flexible. So I was very excited when I found this class in Fort St. John. So before I get to go anywhere, I have to tend to my little buddy in the morning, and so little dude is a Parrotlet, and I got him last year from our local pet store, and he was a fresh hatch, so he's just over a year old, and he's starting to mimic sounds. Now, birds aren't for everybody, I know that, and but I just am so surprised, delighted that little dude has kind of helped me keep to a schedule, as silly as that sounds. And I really missed having dogs and cats, and part of this transition, you know, when our kids grow up and we get busy and we don't have as many pets in the house anymore, and so I contemplated different ideas. I'm so past cleaning cat boxes, and I'm not really into reptiles. I know a lot of people are, and that's great, but I'm not. And I know people don't think that birds are all that cuddly, but I always dreamed of having this macaw, right? But I'm so glad I didn't get one. I've heard that they're wonderful pets and they're very personable, but little dude is enough little mini pterodactyl for me. He is lovely. We get along good most of the time. He's kind of a little bit territorial, and every morning we go through this routine of getting his food and cleaning his cage and changing his water, and it's just a nice way to start the day. I have my coffee. He gets his little chop, whatever I have in the house, or he gets a little bit of everything, fruit and vegetables, and he has turned out to be a very dear friend. He cuddles up with me at night when I'm reading, or if I'm watching TV, he sneaks in under my hair, or he'll cuddle and let me pet him. And although he's not quite talking back yet, he definitely has a really, really good personality. Some days he's a little nastier than others. They go through a little phase when they're molting. But, and the reason why I'm introducing him to you this morning is because he is truly the best 5 inches I've ever had. He is turned out to be really dear to me and my grandkids. Most of them like him. A couple of them are a little bit leery of him because he is kind of intimidating. I haven't clipped his wings, so he flies, and sometimes he's kind of a jerk, and he'll fly kind of right at your head and pull up at the last minute. I've gotten quite used to him, but most of the time now when people are here, I keep him in his cage. When I'm home alone, he's out with me. Anyway, I'm going to finish this up. I'm going to go to my class, and I will see you for tea a little bit later.
So Qigong this morning was great. And you know, as we age and we're, looking after our bodies and paying attention to nutrition and things that are changing that we maybe didn't pay such close attention to before. And I've always been very keen on the power of meditation. And as a counseling hypnotherapist in the past, I really did focus on that relaxation element and all of the things that we can do to keep our mental state clear and focused and moving forward, happy, healthy, safe, comfortable. And so it's so cool that in this episode, when I mentioned that I was going to Qigong this morning, and I didn't really have an idea what I was getting into. I knew it had something to do with Tai Chi, but I wasn't quite sure how it differed. And I've never been to a class before. I've done a little bit of Tai Chi on the internet, but I really enjoy in person much more. And it's so cool because it was such a grounding, beautifully run class, and it is an 8-week program here in Fort St. John. And she's promised that she's going to teach us about lymphatic drainage and different kinds of massage and that nurturing, grounding, meditative visualization. So it's wonderful. And it's so cool that it was on the morning that I was introducing everybody to little dude, because he ties right into the whole mental clarity, mental wellness, I guess, well-being. And studies have shown that pets with seniors helps reduce anxiety, depression. It helps even with blood pressure and cholesterol. And so that's so cool that these two things came together in this episode. So without further ado, this is my little Parrotlet who we met this morning, and he's being kind of shy right now. And as I've maybe mentioned, I am living in an apartment that I didn't really feel that it would be a good home for me to get a puppy. So I like big dogs, and so getting a rescue dog for me, when my grandkids are still so young, getting a rescue dog for me was kind of not something that I wanted to do. And so it would have been a puppy when I was considering getting a pet. And so everything just works out just exactly the way it's supposed to work out. My daughters, all three of their families have dogs. And so I get to borrow them or babysit them when I need a little canine companionship. So that's really cool. If I want to go for a walk and take a dog with me, there's a few I can borrow or accompany their owners. And so it's worked out really well that I don't have a dog here. I'm not really, I did cats when my kids were young, and I just am not into cleaning litter boxes anymore. And I do realize that's a very good thing for a lot of people. Like if you're in an apartment that allows pets, a cat can be so much easier. They seem to be a little more content if you're away a little bit more. And I think for a lot of people, a cat is a really good choice. Not for me at this time in my life. So it's me and little dude. We get along good most of the time. It's getting a little bit later in the day, so he's a little grouchier than normal, but He is lovely. He is out of his cage a lot when I'm home. And I know birds aren't for everybody. I have a very dear friend that's into rats. She loves her rat babies. Another friend that has a lizard. I've never been a reptile person, but she's not a bird person. So we get it, right? And it's just whatever we can do. If you don't have anybody in your life that you can borrow a pet from or get some snuggles from, look around. It's so great. Like in Fort St. John, the SPCA has dog walking nights. So you can go down and walk some of the rescues. And it's such a wonderful way to make a date, to be a little bit active if you can. And it's also so lovely that they get out of their kennel and they get some human contact and they get out and about. And I have known people that have gone and actually adopted the rescues that they had been walking. So it is a good way, if you're shopping for a pet, it's also a good way to introduce yourself or get acquainted with somebody, right? So it's so great. I think that the biggest thing for me, when I'm thinking about people and pets and living alone, the biggest thing for me was how wonderfully surprised I was that little dude actually, two main points, I guess. One of the things was my grandson said to me one day, he said, what kind of a pet are you going to have? And I said, well, I don't think I'll have one when I moved into this apartment. And he said, well, you need something alive. And I said, no, I'm fine. I'll be fine on my own. I don't need anything alive in here. And so it turned out that he was right. It adds a little spark or a little, well, it adds life to the apartment. He hears me come through the first door and up the stairs, and he starts calling for me. And it's sort of cool. It's like the dog that's wagging when you get home, right? So it's kind of nice. And we do have our moments where he's not as happy as he could be. He is like a toddler. Everything I'm doing, he has to be right there doing it with me and poking his nose in. So there's often that I have to have him in his cage if I'm cooking or doing anything that might endanger him. But the other thing that really surprised me was how much better I am with feeling like I'm sort of on top of a schedule. And I think, somebody needing me maybe every day and getting up in the morning. And now it's such a nice routine. And we get up and I talk to myself and talk to him. And he sometimes answers me a little bit. And it's just such a lovely way to get into a rhythm, I guess, when life has handed us some changes or even not changes. Maybe maybe it's just a good way to get a different pace. I'm not sure. We don't want to wait to retirement, maybe. These little guys, their lifespan is about 20 years. So I have had my daughters and grandkids reassure me that if something should happen to me, that they'll look after him. But he's not like a big guy that would live to be 70 or 80 years old that I have to put into a will. He's small. He's easy to have somebody look after him if I have to be gone for a night or two. I just pack up his cage and take it somewhere, and nobody's too afraid of him. And so these are all the things that I had to sort of consider when I was thinking of getting a bird and thinking of getting a large one, right? So, if you're living on your own, or even if you aren't, if you're empty nesting with your husband, or if you're single, or whatever the case may be, consider it. It's I know it's not for everybody, but it sure is nice to have these little critters around. It's yeah, it's great. So we can talk about the animals that are kept, not just for this companionship and for selfish reasons and to keep our blood pressure down and stuff. I grew up on a farm, so I learned about where our meat came from. We had cows. We had horses, and we rode horses a lot for pleasure. I'm not, so ancient that we had to ride horses to school or to work or walk uphill both ways or any of that kind of stuff. I rode a bus. So anyway, we learned where things came from. We gardened, but the cow was great. I missed the part about, somehow I dodged the bullet about milking morning and night. And my older sister did a lot of that, and my dad, of course, most of it, and Mom. And we had pigs and chickens, and I often had to collect the eggs and wash them up. And one of the jobs that I had as a kid was churning the cream to make butter. So the milk would come in and it would be strained and it would be cooled, and then overnight, maybe, I don't know how long it took, I can't remember now, but the cream would rise to the top, and we never used a cream separator, so Mom would skim the cream off the top of the milk and put it in this great big churn. And over the years there were different churns, but I remember this big aluminum one, I think, stainless steel, aluminum. It had wooden paddles. My brother and sister-in-law still have it. So I would have to churn the cream to make butter. And so if you had anything to do, like if you wanted to play with your friends or go for a bike ride or go for a horseback ride or anything at all, it felt like forever for the butter to churn, for the cream to churn into butter. It's hilarious. And or if it was my turn to do the dishes, it always felt like that was when Mom was going to empty all the cream dishes into the churn. And I'm sure I know that wasn't the case, that it wasn't just always on my turn, but it always felt like, you're just about to the end of the dishes and all of these jars would come out and be time to churn butter. So that was life on the farm. So I think that these animals that are kept, and it's shown like the compassion and the respect that my dad showed us how to treat these animals. I mean, yes, we slaughtered the steer or whatever in the fall, and probably some chickens. I remember heads getting whacked off and doing the chicken dance and all that kind of stuff. But they were well treated in their life. They were cared for. And I think that that's part of we've lost that connection. You talk to some people now about slaughtering something, and I was a little kid. It was my job to maybe wrap the meat and before it went into the freezer and that kind of thing. And it was very, it was never cruel, and it was very respectful. And I'm sure all the vegetarians that might hear this think that any of it is cruel, but it's not all about putting hens in little tiny cages and not letting them live. Our animals had a very, very good life. And I think that that's one of the things that we can find with pets. If we don't have the privilege of living on a farm, and it was a privilege. When my kids were young, we lived on an acreage, and we did have some hens for eggs. I decided that I would rather hire a hitman and buy my chicken to eat from the grocery store, because I just didn't have the heart, I guess, to do it myself, which sounds kind of like a cop out, but that's okay. So we had chickens and horses, and for a while we had turtles and birds and hamsters and cats and dogs, and oh my goodness, it was like a zoo for a while. And you know, my kids learned to be kind and to be compassionate, and the responsibility of that little life was in their hand. So, you know, you do take care and you do feed them before you feed yourself. And if you're going out, you better make sure that somebody else is gonna look after that for you. So yeah, that's part of this. You know, it may be kind of a pain in the butt for the parents, because we know that when we say yes that a kid can have a pet, that it's our responsibility to make sure that they live up to their responsibility, and sometimes we kind of step in. But you know, if you can, it's a wonderful learning tool, and I'm so happy that my two of my grandkids live on a farm. They live on a working ranch, so they see calves being born, and they feel the loss when somebody dies, and they know where their food comes from. And I just feel so fortunate that they can do that, and I'm so happy. And they have fish that's their responsibility, because they're young yet. So it's their responsibility to scoop the food into the dogs' dishes and make sure their fish get fed every day. And so, yeah, it's wonderful. It's wonderful. So I believe that it's a huge, huge learning opportunity. And it may not be a bird, and it may not be a lizard, and it may not be a hamster that you let them have first. And maybe it is just one little fish in a fishbowl. Or maybe it is just taking them down to the SPCA and letting them have a day with petting cats. Yeah, it's great. Compassion, empathy for little critters, for everybody smaller than you, and for the people around us. You know, at the end of every episode, I like to leave you with a little something that you might enjoy on your own, or you might want to share with some kids in your life, or grandkids, or kids. And so I've been revisiting the Laura Ingalls Wilder series since I've had grandkids. I read them to my girls when they were quite young, and I didn't remember so much of what's in them. And it just reminds me, talking about animals and churning butter and all the things that we did on the farm. And in the Laura Ingalls Wilder series, Little House in the Big Woods, Little House on the Prairie, she really talks about the pioneer days and the pioneer ways. And I think we're losing that in our society. There are some cultures that really pay attention to old ways and traditions and elders, and there are some cultures that just don't. And I think that the Little House on the Prairie books, I know they're controversial right now. Some of the schools have taken them out of the libraries for some comments that were made in them, and I couldn't really remember. And after I reread them, I think the points are very well balanced, and I think it's another opportunity to discuss some of this history and some of the things that went on with our kids. But they talk about how hard it was, really, how hard it was, how the things that they had, they worked hard for, and they made their own cheese, they had their own garden, and in one book they almost starved to death. And it's it is our history. in a lot of sense. And a lot of the things that they were doing in the books may have been mechanized now, but a lot of the things are still done the same way. You know, on small scale farms, or I mean, that's where we came from. And so, you know, when we're talking about the farm and talking about animals and animal husbandry and respect and pets, and it's all covered in those books. And so I really highly recommend, pick them up. They're such a nice, easy read. I have to admit that I didn't wait for my grandkids. I kept reading ahead. And we read sometimes when they're staying overnight or with me for a bit. But man, they're simple to read. They're quick to go through. Some of the things you just think, wow, how easy we have it now, really. And so, yeah, so that's my good to share. And I hope that I see you next time. Have a cup of tea on me. Take care.